Welcome to Anthropology and Dragons, a podcast about TTRPG games and anthropology. My name is Kaylee, also known as the Gaming Anthropologist, and I will be your host. Today's episode is called The Hearth as Cultural Archetype. Across cultures and centuries, the hearth has been more than a source of warmth. It has been a center, a point around which life gathers, stories circulate, and identity takes shape. Long before the written word, long before the architecture of temples or the rise of formal institutions, the hearth served as the symbolic heart of the home and the community. It was a place where the boundaries between the mundane and the meaningful softened, where the rhythms of daily life met the deeper rhythms of myth. To understand why tabletop role-playing games resonate so deeply today, one must first understand the enduring power of this archetype. The hearth is one of humanity's oldest technologies of belonging. It is where families cooked, where elders told stories, where decisions were made, and where the young learned who they were. It was a site of continuity, a place where generations overlapped. Even in societies with elaborate religious structures, the hearth remained a sacred center in its own right. A place where the ordinary became luminous through repetition, care, and shared presence. Anthropologists have long recognized that the hearth is a symbolic anchor. It is the point around which social life organizes itself. It marks the home as a place of safety and identity. It is where the community returns after journeys, labors, and trials. In many traditions, the hearth is tended with ritual precision, ashes arranged, flames coaxed, offerings made. The fire becomes a living presence, a witness to the unfolding of communal life. As societies modernized, the literal hearth receded. Central heating replaced fire. Digital screens replaced shared storytelling. The rhythms of communal life fractured into individualized routines. Yet the archetype did not disappear. It lingered in memory, in literature, in the quiet human longing for a place where people gather, not out of obligation, but out of shared meaning. In the 21st century, the hearth has reemerged in unexpected forms. It appears in the glow of a screen during a communal live stream. It appears in the circle of friends gathered around a board game. And most vividly, it appears in the tabletop role-playing game, a space where people sit together, lean in, and create a world through shared imagination. The TTRPG table is not a hearth in the literal sense, but it fulfills the same symbolic function. It is the center of gathering, a place where stories are kindled, where identities are explored, and where communal bonds are strengthened. The table becomes a site of warmth, not physical warmth, but emotional and imaginative warmth. It draws people into a shared experience that feels both ancient and contemporary. This is why the metaphor of the hearth is so powerful for understanding TTRPGs. It captures the sense of return, the sense of gathering, the sense of stepping into a space where the ordinary world loosens and something more symbolic takes its place. Around the table, players enact rituals of preparation, arranging dice, opening character sheets, setting intentions for the session. These gestures echo the tending of a fire, small acts that signal the beginning of a shared journey. The hearth is also a place of narrative. It is where stories are told, retold, and transformed. In many cultures, the hearth was the original stage, the original classroom, the original archive. Stories told at the hearth were not merely entertainment. They were vessels of identity, memory, and moral imagination. They taught listeners how to navigate the world, how to understand themselves, and how to relate to others. TTRPGs inherit this narrative function. They create a space where stories are not only told, but co-created. The table becomes a living archive of shared experience, a place where characters grow, where choices matter, where symbolic trials unfold. The stories that emerge from these sessions are not fixed texts. They are dynamic, relational, and deeply personal. They belong to the group, shaped by the interplay of imagination and improvisation. The hearth is also a place of transformation. In many traditions, rites of passage begin or end at the hearth. It is where initiates return after crossing thresholds, where they are welcomed back into the community with new status or understanding. The hearth marks the transition from one state of being to another. In TTRPGs, the table serves a similar function. Players step into the game as themselves, take on the roles of their characters, and return at the end of the session subtly changed. The transformation may be small, a new insight, a shared laugh, a moment of vulnerability, but it is real. The table becomes a threshold, and the hearth becomes the place of return. I invite you to see the TTRPG table not as a hobbyist setup, but as a symbolic center with deep cultural resonance. It is a modern hearth, a place where people gather to imagine, to connect, and to be changed by it. It is a reminder that even in a world of digital fragmentation, the human need for shared symbolic space endures. The hearth persists because we continue to seek it, and in the glow of the tabletop, we find it again. In the study of games, one concept has shaped decades of thinking: the magic circle. Coined by Johann Huizinga in the early 20th century, the magic circle describes the boundary that separates play from ordinary life. Within this circle, the rules of the game hold sway. Outside it, the rules of the everyday world resume. It is a clean, elegant metaphor, a line drawn around the space of play, making it as distinct, voluntary, and temporary. But when we look closely at tabletop role-playing games, the magic circle begins to feel incomplete. The magic circle imagines play as a space apart, a world sealed off from the pressures and meanings of ordinary life. Yet anyone who has sat at a TTRPG table knows that the boundary is far more porous. Emotions spill across it. Personal histories echo within it. The symbolic and the mundane intermingle. The table is not a sealed chamber. It is a threshold. This is where the metaphor of the hearth offers something the magic circle cannot. The hearth is not defined by boundaries. It is defined by a center, a point of warmth and gathering that radiates outward. It does not separate the world of ritual from the world of daily life. It anchors them together. It is a place where the ordinary becomes meaningful, not because it is sealed off, but because it is held in shared attention. When we compare the magic circle and the hearth, we are comparing two different ways of understanding play. The magic circle emphasizes separation. The hearth emphasizes connection. The magic circle imagines a world apart. The hearth imagines a world gathered around a shared center. Tabletop role-playing games contain elements of both, but they lean more deeply into the hearth. Players do not step into a sealed world. They gather around a table, a literal, physical object that holds snacks, notebooks, dice, and the small artifacts of daily life. They bring their histories, their moods, their vulnerabilities with them. They do not leave themselves behind. They bring themselves into the story. The table becomes a place where the symbolic and the personal meet. This is why the magic circle struggles to fully describe TTRPGs. The boundary between play and life is not a clean line. It is a gradient, a softening, a space where the self can stretch, experiment, and return. The hearth metaphor captures this fluidity. It acknowledges that play is not an escape from life, but a way of engaging with it through symbolic meaning. The hearth also helps us understand the communal nature of TTRPGs. The magic circle is often imagined as a solitary boundary, a player stepping into a game world, but the hearth is inherently communal. It is a place where people gather, where stories are shared, where meaning is co-created. Around the hearth, no one is merely an observer. Everyone participates in the warmth. This communal dimension is central to TTRPGs. The table is not a stage with a single performer. It is shared, imaginative space where each participant contributes to the unfolding narrative. The hearth metaphor honors this collective creativity. It recognizes that the power of the game lies not in the separation from the world, but in the gathering of people around a shared, imaginative center. The hearth also illuminates the emotional texture of TTRPGs. In many games, players experience moments of vulnerability, courage, grief, or joy that resonate beyond the session. These emotions do not remain sealed within a magic circle. They linger, they shape relationships, they become part of the group's shared history. The hearth metaphor acknowledges this continuity. It understands that ritual and play are not isolated events. They are woven into the fabric of communal life. The magic circle remains a useful concept. It reminds us that play has structure, that it operates according to rules and shared agreements. But the hearth offers a richer understanding of the symbolic and emotional dimensions of TTRPGs. It captures the warmth, the gathering, the shared breath before a session begins. It captures the sense that something meaningful is about to happen, not because we have stepped away from the world, but because we have stepped toward one another. Here we recognize that the metaphors we use shape the way we understand play. The magic circle gives us boundaries, the hearth gives us belonging, and in the glow of the tabletop, it is belonging that matters most. The hearth endures because it gathers us, and around the table, we gather still. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to come and join me on Patreon and support my work. I also am on Threads and Instagram. See you later!